Moving on slightly, childhood obesity is a powerful predictor of adult disease and death. For example, being overweight as a teenager was found to predict this disease risk 55 years later. Such individuals may end up with twice the risk of dying from heart disease and a higher incidence of other diseases, including colorectal cancer, gout, and arthritis. Should we not be giving students lessons about this good or bad practice from a young age, just as much as we was taught how to cross the road? Like, they're both dangerous if not adhered to.
I think we definitely should. I'm sorry, just something just really crossed my mind. But I'll touch on that in just a moment. I mean, yeah, I think we definitely should. I think what it says here, approximately 9% of, 9% are living obviously with the disease, diagnosed or undiagnosed. Obviously, it's a result of high levels of sugar in your blood. By 2050, it's reported 1 in 3 Americans will have diabetes. I think we should definitely be educating people.
Exactly.
So it just crossed my mind, obviously, that must, in some way, shape or form, obviously put some type of pressure on your healthcare, whether it's your... I don't know how it works in America in terms of private healthcare and national healthcare, but certainly here, obviously, in this country with the NHS. But that's just another side for it, anyway.
100%. I agree with that, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, I haven't been to school for many years now, but education system needs to wake up on a number of things, and that's one of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Based on a study of 89,000 Californians, flexitarians appear to cut their rate of diabetes by 28%. Good news for those who may eat maybe once a week rather than every day. Those who cut out meat but not fish appear to cut their rates in half. They appear to eliminate 61% of the risk. With no dairy or eggs, so a full vegan is 78%. So that would be a reason to become a vegan if there was one. Losing weight with a plant-based diet. The advantage of a whole food plant-based approach to weight loss is that there may be no need for portion control, skipping meals or counting calories, because most plant foods are naturally nutrient dense and low in calories. In a head-to-head randomized clinical trial found that a plant-based diet beat the American Diabetes Association's recommended diet for weight loss. One of the reasons there's been such a great compliance with a plant-based dietary intervention is that people not only tend to get measurably better, they also tend to feel much better. Do you know anyone that's got diabetes by any chance?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've had to change. They've changed their diet significantly. They've got type 2.
Yeah.
I know a few people, but someone that's quite close to me that is of our age group as well.
Okay.
They got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about 2 or 3 years ago. They've changed their diet significantly. They're not what you deem. They're not even overweight. They've never been a drinker. They didn't drink alcohol anyway. They don't drink now.
Yeah.
They've never you know what I mean? They've never what's for lack of better words, pigged out on any type of food that would, sugary food, whatever it is that would cause that, and they've been diagnosed with it, so they've kind of had to change their diet significantly to try and help with sugar levels in their body and so on. And actually, it's something that runs for my family, and I've never ever been checked for it, so I need to check, because my gran, she passed away, but before she passed away, she had her leg amputated. She got an infection in her foot. Foot couldn't quite react to the infection. Spread. She had to get her leg amputated. My granddad's got it. He's still around. He's got diabetes as well, and that's both from the same side of the family. So
was they type 1 or type 2?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But I know type 2 is the more kind of severe type, isn't it?
Well, it's saying type 2 is the one that you can change through diet.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
But I think it's more severe in you have to be on it. You have to have your there's certain medication, not medication, but you have your needle. You check your blood every night.
That's my dad.
Yeah, that's type 2 then.
Yeah, definitely. My dad's a madman, I'm telling you. So I remember at the time. So I have someone obviously in my family who has obviously diabetes. It's funny. I'm looking actually some of these dare I say, I don't want to say a checklist as to some of the I don't call them, for lack of a better word, maybe I'll say side effects, obviously having diabetes and stuff like this. I mean, there's times when I've said, you know what, I'm suffering from blurred vision.
Yeah.
You said that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been checked for it yourself?
So the reason why I say yes is that time obviously when I was saying I went to the doctor and she said you got to take this injection or blah blah blah. It was actually she took my blood.
Yeah.
Like loads of blood.
Yeah.
And she told me I was all clear. So so I don't have any complication or anything along those lines. But so yeah. Now that's coming. That was about 6 months to a year. No, 6 months in the summer.
Okay.
So I'm quite comfortable, obviously, with where I'm currently at. But yeah, my dad, he was running away from any confirmation that he had diabetes to the point. I remember I was really young, and he asked me to take a urine sample for him to actually. I don't know why he wanted to do that because obviously, truth be told, all you want is really confirmation as to whether you got diabetes or not. But I reckon it might have been something where they've checked up on something and then they wanted to confirm something, but he was running away from any type of confirmation that he had diabetes anyway. So that's my little story there, I say.
You been checked yourself?
Now I was saying like 6 months ago when I had to take blood, I'm sure she would have told me that I would have had something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean those things are really, really important because the last thing you want to be doing really is my habit anyway of eating things. Although I've now stopped eating meat and stuff like that. I eat sweet things quite regularly, you know what I'm saying? So it wouldn't, I don't want to say it wouldn't surprise me, but it wouldn't come of a surprise if someone told me you had high blood sugar or you had diabetes, etc., etc. That'd be a combination of chowing down on these Bakewell tarts and what have you for the past 15, 20 years, scarring my arteries.
Moving on to...
Right, you'll find French.
Oh, snap, yeah. Yeah, my grandma had it actually before she passed away. She was worried that I may have it, but I'm cool. I've been to the doctors numerous amount of times, and all my blood levels are
fine.
great. Yeah,
Is it great?
yeah, half full, isn't it? Yeah. So moving on to chapter 7, how not to die from high blood pressure. Processed meat is blamed for the deaths of more than 800,000 people every year worldwide. That's 4 times more people than die from illicit drug use. Do you think there will be a war on food or diet as there is on the war on drugs?
No, there's no chance.
Is there even a war on drugs? That is a separate question.
That's another thing. Are we talking about legal or illegal? First and foremost.
That's true.
That's a big question because there's certainly not a war on drugs, the legal drugs anywhere. And if I'm honest, there should probably be a bigger war on the legal drugs that are being manufactured and the drugs that are being consumed.
Of course.
So I don't even want to get into illegal drugs. Actually, that's another moral story anyway. I don't really get into that. But yeah,
no is what.
Yes.
Let's go.
When you say alright, so you say it should. Do you think there'll be a war for? Look, to me, at the end of the day, there's I think a few. So we've been through about 5 or 6 chapters, and a few of kind of case studies or examples we've given, we found that in kind of, for lack of a better word, not less economically developed countries, but maybe poor. What we see as poorer countries. Their rates of disease or infection tend to be lower than kind of westernized or more economically developed countries. So it's down to choice.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. And obviously people choose that and the money. Look, as we speak, there's an advert on now, Coca-Cola. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's down to like these corporations with their sugary drinks and sugary foods throwing it in our face, the ease of access of these fast food drinks and so on.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, as I said, we walk up this high street now. We can get some fast food.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I'm saying? Some deaf food,
Yeah.
if you want to call it. But where are we going to find our nice, you know what I'm saying? We're going to see something where I can get a fast vegan takeout or a vegetarian meal takeout, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, we're not going to get a war. No way. It's too much money.
way too much money at stake. Way too much. Billions, trillions. Sorry.
Speaking of money, eating more whole grains could potentially save. Actually, not even speaking of money. Numbers, shall I say? Eating more whole grains could potentially save 1.7 million lives a year. If you eat more veg, 1.8 million. More nuts and seeds, 2.5 million. And more fruit, 4.9 million. The number one risk factor for death in the world they identified is high blood pressure. Sodium. big part of.
Oh, so do you mind if I just drop 1 or 2 facts as well?
Yeah,
okay, so I know I posted obviously something on Instagram in regards to this. So, how many lives could we save if around the world we cut back on fizzy drinks? So the answer is 299,521. Then it goes on to say, obviously,
that's really precise.
Yeah, that's very precise. And processed meat is also to blame for the deaths of more than 800,000 people per year worldwide. That's 4 times more people that die from illicit drug use. What else is that?
Do you know what I'd love to do? I know you're still living.
No, that's fine.
I'd love to actually go somewhere and see with my own eyes how processed meat is manufactured.
Don't they have them kind of YouTube videos where you can?
I want to see my own. Like,
do you want to see it?
I want to go
live
and see.
in the flesh.
They've taken out the chicken breast. They've taken out the chicken wing.
Yeah.
You now tell me how that chicken nugget you're sent you're putting in that frozen chicken is now made 100% chicken breast or whatever. I want to see if you do those scraps of that chicken.
That's a lie, man. Like, I mean,
I know it's brain and that going in there, boy.
Of course it is.
Nothing.
Yeah, you know that.
That's why I ain't touching them. Don't need to keep you any more clever. Do I'm joking.
On page 147, that's where we are currently. 2 major reasons the food industry adds salt to foods. If you add salt to meat, it draws in water. A company can increase the weight of its product by nearly 20%. Since meat is sold by the pound, that's a 20% increase in profits, more or less. Secondly, eating salt makes us thirsty, and it's a point that you mentioned earlier. A cold drink and a salty snack go hand in hand. It may be no coincidence that Pepsi and Frito-Lay are part of the same corporation, which has been reported to contain the most sodium. I think we asked this on the gram, didn't we? I don't know, maybe you lot didn't answer it or don't remember. But which has been reported to contain the most sodium? A serving of beef, a serving of baked all-natural chicken, a large McDonald's French fries, or a serving of salted pretzels.
It's the chicken, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was asked.
Yeah, it's the chicken.
Consumer reports found that some supermarket chickens were pumped so full of salt that they registered a whopping 840 milligrams of sodium per serving. That could mean more than a full day's worth of sodium in just one chicken breast. Daily servings of white rice was associated with a 17% greater risk of diabetes, whereas replacing 1/3 of a serving a day of white rice for brown rice might lead to a 16% drop in the risk. With that being said, wouldn't there be more cases? I know this is not to sound racist, but I know you shouldn't put a disclaimer and say that before you ask it, because now it's going to sound like that. But with that being said, I would have thought that there'd have been more diabetes cases in the Asian community.
With the chicken thing?
No, with the white, because the last thing
white
I spoke
rice.
about was white rice. No?
Do you know what? Don't get it twisted, yeah. Just because we go to eat at Indian man's restaurant and we getting served certain things, don't think that at home that's what they eat.
That's why I didn't want it to sound like if I'm being.
It's not. It's just stating facts.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of Asian people and they like lentils.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them like lentils.
Yeah.
So remember, you'll see. Yeah. Alright, I'll leave it at that.
Does anyone know about the DASH diet?
No. Oh no.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Alright, the DASH diet stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It's an eating plan specifically designed to lower blood pressure. We've known for decades that food of an animal origin was highly significant. What are you laughing at, bro?
God, it's highly significant.
Associated
So I'm done.
with systolic and dystolic blood pressure after the age any weight effects were removed. There's a quote from a series of studies performed by a renowned physician, Frank Sachs and colleagues, back in the 1970s. There are studies going all the way back to the 1920s demonstrating that adding meat to a plant-based diet can significantly elevate blood pressure in a matter of days. The reason that the DASH diet was modelled explicitly after the vegetarian diets, but was not meat-free itself, might surprise you. The primary design goal of the DASH diet was to explicitly create eating patterns that would have the blood pressure lowering benefits of a vegetarian diet, yet contain enough animal products that can make them palatable to non-vegetarians. Do you think there's an ulterior motive in all fad diets?
Definitely. What? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I can't be specific on what the motive is. But I think there definitely is. I know they went to touch on the guy who had the Atkins, I think, diet.
Yeah.
Did he go on? Did he get sued or something along those lines, or his business went out?
Yeah, he went out of business.
He went out of business. Yeah. I think the guy tried to sue him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Michael Grigg.
Yeah.
Incredible. Because that Atkins diet was massive.
Yeah, no, it was
huge.
big.
I remember it.
That was massive.
It was big. But that's why I asked the question: is there ulterior motive in fad diets? Because obviously, essentially, someone's making money off them.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I was saying, the words I was using, assuming is, I don't know if you can patent a diet. I'm assuming you can, because that's where you would make your money. All right, that's the reason why you can't patent or patent a beetroot or a celery stick, because it's not quite possible. Whereas if you make up a diet as such, and then you can sell it on, etc., etc. Obviously, that's where people obviously make their money. Obviously, somewhere along the lines, obviously, this diet has been made out to not work for some other reasons, and obviously that's where obviously the individual or group have gone out of business. But yeah, I do think there's a motive towards them.
What about you, Mish?
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of corruption in the world, man. I'm thinking people's got ulterior motives all over the gaff.
Yeah, of course.
We need a new free world. Sorry, I'm getting a bit political with it now, but
just to mention, as you may have mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of foods that get repeated in each section, and I'm just going to name a couple that do. Flax seeds, they get mentioned in more or less every section as beneficial to help with each case, whether it's disease or cancer. One that I did find quite surprising was hibiscus tea, also known as sorrel tea. I mean, if you're from a West Indian or African background, you're gonna more or less know about sorrel tea. Some places it's called roselle, or some places it's called sour tea, but that is within this section of being high blood pressure. It's meant to be good for that. Nitrous oxide and beetroot are worthy mentions as well. Moving on to chapter 8, how to not die from liver diseases. Alcohol liver disease. Excessive alcohol consumption can lead to accumulation of fat in the liver, calling it fatty liver, which can cause inflammation and result in liver scarring and eventually liver failure. With alcohol so heavily wrapped in Western society, is it realistic to consider food a barrier to liver disease? Does that make sense?
Is it consider food a barrier to liver disease?
I mean, when I first actually put the question down, it made sense, but me reading it back.
Repeat again.
With alcohol so heavily wrapped in Western society, is it realistic to consider food a barrier to liver disease?
I understand what you're getting at.
Yeah.
I understand what you're getting at.
So is food being taken out of the equation in regards to liver disease?
Yeah.
I think it has, because I think when you associate liver disease, the first thing you do is associate or think is of alcohol. Whereas I think certainly reading the book, obviously there's a lot more contributing factors to liver disease other than alcohol. I think the one thing I've taken from alcohol that also is really, really fatty. It's really fatty. In fact, that's the one thing really considered obviously with liver disease, fatty liver. So it's really fatty. Obviously you digest it in some way, shape or form. From there, obviously it stores fat, and then from there it kind of like has some type of scarring, builds up fat, scarring, and then from there obviously it deteriorates.
The only thing I've got to add to that, I mean, I think in this chapter it mentions that like we've got 2 kidneys, we can live with one. We've got you got this, what's that thing that people, appendix, you can take that out, you can live without it. There's certain things in the body you've got 2 of, or 1 of, which you can take out with. The liver is the one. No, I'm wrong, am I? Am I wrong or am I right?
Well,
sorry, I'm right. The liver's the one. You F that up.
Yeah, you really get one liver.
Second chance.
Yeah.
There's no second chance.
It's only one of those.
Yeah.
Specific plant foods have been found to be protective of the liver, though.
Okay.
For instance, starting out the day with a bowl of oatmeal, and surprisingly, coffee may help safeguard
That
our
surprised
liver
me as well,
function.
man. Coffee.
In regards to coffee, where is it? A 2013 review of best studies to date found that people who drank the most coffee had half the risk of liver cancer compared to those who drank the least. A subsequent study found the consumption of 4 or more cups of coffee a day was associated with 92% lower risk among smokers dying from chronic liver disease. Liver cancers are among the most avoidable cancers through Hep B vaccinations, control of Hep C transmission, and reduction of alcohol consumptions. These three measures could, in principle, wipe out 90% of liver cancers worldwide. That is a big, big statement. Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention?
Liver disease.
Mm-hmm. Guess not.
I know. What I'm thinking. I don't know if anyone can touch on this at all. I mean, there was loads of like correlation to. I mean, whether it's injecting drugs, vaccines, practicing safe sex. Obviously, the alcohol is an obvious one, as we mentioned before, and obviously the cholesterol, the saturated fats, and obviously the sugar are quite obvious ones as well, and that they produce or store fat, and then from there they're scarring. But I was unsure, obviously, where the safe sex. Where all that kind of like correlated obviously with your liver and why the two are kind of linked together. I'm not too sure if anyone knows or can shed light on that.
Not too sure. I mean, infections. I could only assume because the liver deals with infections.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's where that's the first the line of defence.
Okay.
Does that make sense, or am I just chatting shit?
No. It makes sense.
I mean, it's a theory. It's a theory.
Yeah.
I can't co-sign that and say that's facts. But moving on slightly to chapter 9. In fact, in this, there's anything else worthy of
No. I was done on that. That's all I had on that.
How not to die from blood cancers. This is quite. I didn't really take too much.
That's fine. The kind of common theme. I don't know if you both were taking this from the chapters, but it's kind of like.
It's the same.
With all of them, it's kind of like.
Yeah, it's very much the same. Like for me, I'm
healthier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna probably go through a few more key ones that I think are maybe worth mentioning.
Yeah, you run through. I've got 1 or 2 notes
I've got
anyway.
quite a few notes, but
on blood cancer.
No, just in general. I mean, I'll go through each chapter, but we don't have to go into too much detail because there's quite a lot of details to go in through. So for blood cancers are sometimes referred to as liquid tumours. Since its cancer cells often circulate throughout the body rather than get concentrated in a solid mass. Now, after following more than 60,000 people, more than a dozen years, University of Oxford researchers found that those who consume a plant-based diet are less likely to develop all forms of cancer combined. The greatest protection appeared to be against blood cancers. From chapter 10, how not to die from. Oh, did you?
Yeah. It's literally 1 or 2 bits and pieces. I did have a question as well.
Yeah.
It went on to say, obviously, the blood cancer, obviously, they impair the ability of your bone marrow to produce normal red and white cells by crowding out the healthy ones, creating a diminished healthy blood cell count that can lead to anemia, infection, and possibly death. Obviously, I was aware that obviously your blood marrow actually produces cells, etc. But probably my question was, I don't know if anyone can answer it in any way, shape, or form, is how blood cancer is developed?
I definitely can't answer that.
Mason?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it isn't in the book.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it isn't in the book as such, but I tried to obviously look up this very, very brief information as to obviously how blood cancer is developed. I know there's a lot of stuff in the theories in terms of how to maybe, I don't want to say tame it or reduce it or improve your chance of survival, but I thought that would maybe quite interesting because we're talking about your blood after all.
Yeah, no, it's not something I've thought about.
Well, that's me anyway on blood cancer.
Yeah, cool.
So, sorry, was blood cancer, was that linked to kidneys as well?
Well, it goes on to kidneys.
Okay, sorry, do you mind? I don't know if you've got anything on that at all?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot.
Oh, sorry, then go on.
I mean, just to give you a brief introduction, they process, like for kidneys anyway, they process up to 150 litres of blood every 24 hours just to make the 1 to 2 litres of urine you pee out each day. If your kidneys do not function properly, metabolic waste products can accumulate in the blood and eventually lead to such symptoms as weakness, shortness of breath, confusion and abnormal heart rhythms. A national survey found that only 41% of Americans tested had normal kidney function, a jump from 52% about a decade earlier. Approximately 1 in 3 Americans over the age of 64 may suffer from chronic kidney disease, though three quarters of the millions affected may not even know they have it. More than half of American adults currently aged 30 to 64 are expected to develop CKD, being chronic kidney disease, during their lifetimes. The saturated and trans fat and cholesterol found in animal products and junk foods are also associated with impaired kidney function, and meat protein increases the acid load to the kidneys, boosting ammonia production and potentially damaging our sensitive kidney cells. In regards to, I found what was interesting was eating some tuna, and within 3 hours your kidney filtration rate can shoot up by 36%, but eating the same amount of protein in the form of tofu doesn't appear to place the additional strain on the kidneys. And it goes further on to mention kidney stones. Eating a plant-based diet to alkalinize your urine may help prevent and treat kidney stones. There's hard mineral deposits that can form in your kidneys when the concentration of certain stone-forming substances in your urine becomes so high that they start to crystallize. By the 1970s, enough evidence had accumulated that research began to ask whether people suffering from recurrent kidney stones should stop eating meat altogether. With so much backdated evidence, why do you think we still aren't aware of this now, of this common knowledge in the scientific community?
Why are they not aware of it in the scientific?
Why are we not aware of it, even though it's common knowledge in the scientific community? Because it goes back to 1970s that they were saying that it's best that people should stop eating meat altogether.
Listen, we stop eating meat. What happens to the farming industry in this country?
That's done.
There you go. That's an answer.
That's
an answer.
Well done,
in
that's
itself.
it.
You know what I mean?
Out of nowhere, all of a sudden we just stop hearing about SARS and mad cow and all them stuff there.
All of them things.
But yeah, no, you said
And
it.
I think
you're knowing on the head. It comes back down to money.
Let's not beat around the bush.
Listen, if we had advertisements or commercials on our screens every day about root veg, greens, natural produce, what, bruv? Hey, up is the farming industry. There's a lot of, listen, your supermarkets, boy, they're shutting down. You see the rise in your green grocers, how it was back in the day, you get me? Your individual green grocers. They don't want us to win. They don't want
Cali.
They don't want us to win. Yeah, but that can't happen.
It won't happen.
Was there things that you wanted to add?
No, I think you pretty much touched on. Let me do a quick look in here, but I think you touched on these small points that I did have to get there anyway in regards to it. No, I think we touched on it before in regards to obviously the celebrity status also with Dr. Oz when the Akai burial obviously became very famous, obviously in 2008. So we've discussed that. Yeah.
Just say.
Oh, that's alright. Yes, that
is there no actual proven health benefits for that with that berry?
I think there is proven health benefits. I think the problem is people out here.
People mix it, chop it, mix it. Nah. people are putting anything and putting 0.01% acai berry. Look at the benefits.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
I'm sure that's the berry there, because when that's the berry, you only find it in certain parts of South America. Yeah. What's that rainforest? What we call it?
Yeah.
Amazon.
It's the Amazon. It goes on to chapter 11, how not to die from breast cancer. To demonstrate how dramatically lifestyle changes can impact breast cancer risk over the course of about 7 years, researchers followed a group of about 30,000 post-menopausal women with no history of breast cancer, achieving just 3 out of 10 AICR recommendations, limiting alcohol, eating mostly plant foods and maintaining a normal body weight, was associated with a 62% lower risk of breast cancer. Yes, 3 simple health behaviours appeared to cut risk by more than half. In regards to alcohol, it mentions alcohol, and I think this is probably something a lot of ladies will like. Interestingly, drinking only red wine was not associated with breast cancer risk. Why?
The grape.
A compound in red wine appears to suppress the activity of an enzyme called estrogen synthase, which breast tumours can use to create estrogen to fuel their own growth. This compound is found in the skin of the dark purple grape used to make red wine, which explains why white wine appears to provide no such benefits since it's produced without the skin.
With white grape, it's produced with... You can't tell, man, about wine and red grapes and tannins and then things.
You know about all of that, yeah, dad.
You read the survey, are you ready? And I can tell you it's the grape, it's the red grape.
Again, it gets another honourable mention. It's flax seeds, and just to give you a bit of info on flax seeds. Flax seeds are one of the first items ever considered to be on the health foods, treasured for their purported healing properties since at least the times of the ancient Greece, when the renowned physician Hippocrates wrote about them, using them to treat patients. In terms of breast cancer risk, eating about a daily tablespoon of ground flax seeds and extended the woman's menstrual cycle by about a day. This means she'll have fewer periods over the course of a lifetime, and therefore, presumably, less estrogen exposure and reduced breast cancer risk. Chapter 12. How not to die from suicide or depression.
You know what? I want to look.
And number 3, I'm not co-signing.
I'm not yet. Because no notes. That's it. I don't need no notes.
Do not tell me. Me eating broccoli, shredded greens, and iceberg lettuce is going to help me not to go and jump off the Eiffel.
Alright.
Chapter 14.
Go on, start French.
Yeah, literally, we're going to knock these last ones out the park now. Because, just as a note, in 1946, the World Health Organization defined health as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. What's your definition of great health?
Of great health?
Yeah.
Great health?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It's a tough one to answer.
Yeah, very tough one.
What is great health?
Where to begin?
I think health is body and mind.
That's
the first thing to say.
That's your answer. I mean, part of your answer. I mean, if there's more to add. For me, I think I was going to add to that is great mind, body and spirit. Really, if you feel great mentally, physically and spiritually, that for my personal opinion is having great health. When I feel spiritually in touch with my inner being, so to speak, and the main source, God, some people call it God, whatever you may call it, and feel great mentally and great physically, that for me is definitely great health. That's how I would define health anyway. But
likewise, I think I agree with both of what you said. I think the difficulty I had with this chapter here was, I'm not saying it said if you eat your berries, your broccoli, your kale, that you're not gonna have depression. I'm not saying that's the road I felt was taking me down. So I was thinking, yo, what are you on about, Michael Grigg?
No, you're taking the piss, brother. I'm surprised he's in the next chapter how not to die from a car crash. When I saw this, I said, listen, I'm buying into what you're telling me, but come on, don't push it too far. Yeah.
You know what? Funny enough, though, I've actually got a couple questions on this section. Major depression is one of the most commonly diagnosed mental illnesses, and an estimated 7% of American adults suffer from serious depression. That's about 60 million people who have at least one depressive episode each way. Has or does food ever play a role in your mental state? One of you go.
Sorry, no, I think it definitely does. I think if you eat, me personally, when I feel at my best, is when I'm actually eating healthily and I'm actually exercising and stuff like that. So I totally understand the perspective in terms of if you're eating well and you, dare I say, maybe feel good.
Yeah.
All right. That it does assist in terms of your It does assist in terms of staying away from that road or that dark road of or depression and potentially suicide and stuff like that. But if you're telling me eating kale is going to prevent me from having a suicide episode, then I can't really buy into all of that. But I do believe part of what he is saying, I definitely understand that. Eat good, feel good, feel free, etc., etc. But I can be eating kale, spinach, cabbage, and be going for a madness at home.
What about you, Mace?
No comment, man. The only thing I will say is, when I have a heavier lunch, I feel like I get egoritis, and when I have a lighter lunch, I still have the ability to want to do things. End of. Self.
Yeah, I think it does play a role to an extent, because I know for me personally, if I don't eat for a while, then I get grouchy.
Yeah.
I get in a certain way, so it can definitely play a role in my mental state. Yeah. Growing evidence indicates that positive psychological well-being is associated with reduced risk of physical illness. But which came first? Are people healthier because they're happy, or people just happier because they're healthy? Prospective studies that follow individuals over time have found that people starting out happier do indeed end up healthier. An analysis of 70 such studies on mortality concluded that positive psychological well-being has a favourable effect on survival in both healthy and diseased populations. Those who are happier appear to live longer.
Oh, God.
How can you measure happiness?
Using the POMS.
Okay.
It's true though. You used POMS and DASS tests. What about 1 in 3 of the negative emotional individuals felt? Nah, I'm not even going to get into that, man.
Cool.
Just keep it moving.
Alright.
See, and again, it mentions eggs. Like, eggs get quite a bad rap in this book.
That's fine. I'm not a big egg eater anyway.
That counts me out.
I mean, yeah, I didn't do any notes for the last two. How not to, and that's not to be disrespectful for anyone that's suffering from Parkinson's disease.
I actually did, but we touched on it very briefly.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
The last two are how not to die from Parkinson's disease
And how not to die from iatrogenic causes, or not how to die from doctors.
Or in other words, how not to die at the doctors or from the doctors. So Pox, you wanna lead on those two?
Okay, cool. Just very, very briefly. So on Parkinson's, I think it touches on, I'm going to say, a chemical called dioxins,
Go on.
which can be found in soil and also food. I'm going to say it can be found in food primarily, obviously through the soil that you're using. So if you're using, I'm going to say, maybe for lack of a better word, manure. I think you corrected me on that earlier.
Yeah.
I think the chemicals, I believe, can be found in that. But whereas, obviously, I'm going to assume if you're probably a vegan and you're not obviously using manure and stuff like that, you're probably going to use a compost, which is comprised from fruits, veg and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm assuming those who are probably of a vegan diet are avoiding, obviously, the chemical dioxins and obviously limiting their chance of obviously having Parkinson's. But obviously those who are not necessarily vegan and obviously eating from manure, not eating from manure, but having their... I think you get where I'm coming from. I think you understand where I'm coming from. Have a higher risk.
I'll have the grill manure. Is that coming there?
Yeah, so that is all I have, certainly in terms of on Parkinson's, if I'm honest. And I don't know, should we jump straight into the last one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we'll jump. Yeah, so we'll jump straight into the last one. I'll be dead honest.
Yeah.
I read probably about a page, and that's all I needed to read. Alright, and not because I couldn't have learned any more, but I found it very, very interesting. So what I took from the last page was that basically how to die from going to the doctor. Yeah. Okay, so
how not to die.
Not to die. Well, I learned how to die. All right, so I learned how to die. So the information I took was obviously this. Sometimes you're encouraged to wash your hands. Obviously, when you go into the hospital, when you go to the doctor, etc., etc. But certainly, the information Michael Gregier posed to me was half of these I was going to say geezers, but geezers and geezettes are not washing their hands following surgery, big surgeries and stuff like that as well, which I found very, very
disturbing.
Thank you, disturbing. I was looking for a word. Very, very disturbing. And there was another 3-4 pages on the type of stuff that actually goes on. But I looked at the first page and I said, you know what? I think we're going to close it there, kind of thing. But yeah, I think that's very, very disturbing.
So it also goes on to things like, well, Michael Greger says things like CAT scans and stuff like that. They're full of radiation, and they might not be necessary. And I think also things like when your doctor tells you to take aspirins, to prescribe you certain drugs, they have side effects which can cause long-term harm. So that's,
I would agree.
One memorable mention is if you're going for, I think it's a
Colonoscopy?
Colonoscopy. To have mint or some kind of mint drops, and it basically relaxes where it's going a few hours before. I think that's probably the only food related kind of suggestion that you can make on that. I think he was stretching it a bit.
Yeah, he's taking a bit. As I said, I'm surprised he didn't have a few other more chaps in there. How not to die from washing your hair. Just
something to add.
Anything else to add on part one of the book? So yeah, we're human. We know that part one's a bit of a slog. We wanted to get through it because we needed the theory behind the kind of practical which is coming in part two, dare I say, French and Fox. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. We did. And tune in for part two at Fully Booked on the Instagram, full_e_booked. The SoundCloud's there as well. The link to our SoundCloud is on our Instagram page in our bio. Check out our
iTunes,
our posts on Instagram. Check out our iTunes account. Is it on the iTunes account? Is it just you type in Fully Booked?
Yeah.
Just literally FULLEBOOKED. You do just put the underscores and stuff in there.
You don't need to do underscores, no. Just type it as it is.
Yeah, on the podcast app or the iTunes, however you want to refer to it, it's Fully Booked, FULLEBOOKED. We can get all of season 1 on there, and obviously you catch these episodes for part 1 of How Not to Die. So season 2 of Fully Booked. Thanks for tuning in as always, and
thank you. Good night.
Thank you guys. Take care.